Yeah, well, it's a bit unusual for me to be recognised for thinking. Hopefully it doesn't prejudice me for being thought about as someone who is more practical and does stuff as well. But no, it's a good feeling, and it's nice to be amongst people who are doing lots of interesting stuff. Yeah, so I'm spending quite a lot of time at the moment on Pacific Fibre. So I think it's one of the things that is a focus here is really thinking about how we connect New Zealand to the world. And New Zealand is currently connected to the world with a single provider of international connectivity. So we think there's we think that's a pretty fragile place for us to be. And so Pacific Fibre is a really exciting opportunity for us to get competition into that market. So spending a lot of time on that, spending quite a lot of time looking at companies to invest in New Zealand, and also managing the investments I've made already. And there are some people doing some really interesting things, pushing offshore, and so the connectivity of New Zealand for the sectors that I'm involved with, really to the west coast of the United States, is becoming more and more important for us. And thirdly, I'm spending quite a lot of time on my foundation. So last month in Africa, and doing a bit of that. I think the issue we have is that fibre to the home is fantastic, but 90% of the content that New Zealanders consume is on servers offshore. And so that international linkage is really, really important for us. So Facebook, YouTube, Google, all that stuff is not hosted here. And so when we were building the Trade Me business, we were very aware of the constraints on people's bandwidth, and we built it specifically for a low bandwidth world. And I think one of the reasons why Trade Me was successful is that links offshore were slow, and so there's a real competitive advantage in doing it locally. But I think my thinking has really changed in that regard, and now all the content really is offshore. And if New Zealand companies are going to be more competitive, then we need to just appear as if we are in those markets. We can't have 5-second delays with when we're video conferencing with customers, or any of those things which are so important to growing businesses. So I think all we're trying to do is bring competition to that market. Demand is continuing to grow very strongly, and fibre to the home is a fantastic thing to be doing, but unless we solve the international link, then all it does is get you to trade me faster. I'm an early investor and director on Xero, so that's a really successful online accounting company. So very excited about that. We've got 150 or so people in Wellington now building that, and passionate about that. So that's a great business. Sonar 6 does a very similar thing with performance reviews for people. So really pushing into the space of what can we do which can have a good business model to make lots of money, but not really require us to be shipping containers full of anything away. So it's really the lightweight economy, the software as a service sort of economy is where I'm focused. Yeah. I mean, there's far too many poor people in the world to save them all, but my focus is very much on ensuring that the money that I am investing in social impact is really effective. So I spend a lot of time talking to organisations who are taking interventions to scale, be it in maternal health or helping smallholder farmers grow more food, and really focused on the bottom billion, the poorest billion people on the planet who typically earn $200 or $300 per family per year. So really at the bottom is where I'm kind of focusing my attention. I mean, I'm busy with all the stuff I've got going on. So I'm adding stuff, and I'm finishing stuff all the time. So still very much in the doing phase, and thinking as I go.